Let's talk about the World Economic Forum. So here's a term you're not going to like. The term is polycrisis, meaning many, many interconnected crises at the same time. Now, this is not my word. This is Klaus Schwab's word and the team, the merry band of globalists over at the World Economic Forum. This is their new global risks report they just released. It's a hoot of a read, by the way. You should all read it. It was published recently, and it's an annual assessment of human survival, or lack thereof. Like, are we all going to die thanks to these globalists? Based on the perceived risks, such as high cost of living, wars, conflicts, and natural disasters. The World Economic Forum ranks these risks as short-term or long-term. Now, is this in an attempt to scare us? Perhaps. You could read it that way. It does read like a list of things that the World Economic Forum invites us to freak out about. Like they want us to be scared about this stuff, so they have control of us and, turn our sovereignty over to them so they will protect us, right? Pandemic, here's your vaccine. Climate change and fires and wildfires, fine. Stay home. Lockdown. We'll take care of you. We'll make you a digital currency. We'll cars anymore. We got control of you. They certainly seem to be ratcheting up the narrative, though, from last year's report. Last year, the World Economic Forum's biggest concerns were this. Let's go through the list. These were the last year. This was last year's report. Disorderly climate transition. Disorderly climate transition. Chapter 3, digital dependencies and cyber vulnerabilities. Barriers to migration. Want to come across the southern border of America? Is there a wall there? Let's break down those barriers. Just come on in. They've certainly been achieving that. Crowding and competition in space. It's getting crowded up in space.
Hey, how many of those issues did their big ass brains fix? I'm pretty sure that since that was last year's list, it should be. I think they're all fixed, right?
Well, barriers to migration. They've certainly knocked down the barriers to migration. They've really helped that, right?
Yeah, and all you have to do is look up, and you can see there's absolutely no crowding in space. So
there's no competition in space anymore.
Yeah.
Digital dependencies. Are we digitally dependent? Digital dependencies. We've become more digitally dependent thanks to their moves. Climate change, cybersecurity, migration, resource competition based on overcrowding. So if we put last year at a 4 or 5 alarm fire, we can put this year's report at a 10 plus. Thanks, World Economic Forum. So let's go through. This year, they're saying all manner of things are a crisis. Again, this isn't us saying this. This is the World Economic Forum. All of the unelected globalists who just got together in Davos, who drive all of our policies and, of course, are in lockstep with the World Health Organization. These are the people that run our lives, our governments. We should be very frightened about this crap. Not about their list, but about them. So here's their list, their polycrises, as they're calling it. They're calling this polycrisis, meaning all of these things will simultaneously wreak havoc on our collective survival. All of these things. And we'll go through them. In the words of climate researcher Bjorn Lomborg, if everything is a priority, then nothing is, right? Like, do you ever try to get some stuff done? You've got like a to-do list. You've got things that you want to accomplish, like a big project that you really want to, maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to, I know when I was writing my book like a number of years ago, like if I was doing other things, I didn't get to finish the book. Right, I've got projects with my companies that I'm working on. Like if I'm distracted by other things, those things don't get done. It's like what Cal Newport writes about in his book, Deep Work. If you spend 3 to 4 hours of really focused work, you can get a lot accomplished. Not distracted by notifications and text messages and social media. Like if you just shut it all down and do it, you get the stuff done. So now all of these things distract us. All of these things take our attention. And that's what it is. If everything is a priority, then nothing is, as he says, Bjorn Lomborg. They even rate our potential for catastrophe at 13% in the next 2 years and 20% in the next 10 years, they say. These polycrises. So look at this. Look at this one in at the yellow. 2% chance that we'll be okay. There's a 2% chance in yellow that we'll be okay, according to the World.
So you're saying
Economic
there's a
Forum.
chance.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Well, and they're probably, they're showing in 10 years all the progress we'll have if we follow their guidelines.
Right. So our
knock
only
it from
hope.
2% to 9%.
So Obi-Wan Kenobi, our only hope. Like the World Economic Forum, we've got to follow their guidelines. Otherwise, we're going to hit. You're going to be screwed here. They don't really call all-out war so much as geoeconomic confrontation is what they call it, meaning that countries can't work together to sustain the life that we have. So war, economic and otherwise. In their long-term global risks, misinformation and disinformation is listed as number 11, meaning a global risk caused by misinformation. Put that into perspective for a moment. A terrorist attack is number 32 on the list. So information control is more important to the World Economic Forum than terrorism. By the way, who's carrying out the terrorism?
Well, yeah, they'd have to take an introspective look on that one, wouldn't they?
Right. Oh, you mean all those drone
don't wanna
strikes that
bring
the
that
United
up
States
too.
carries out? Yeah, is that considered
exactly.
terrorism, or is that one guy who who whatever? Yeah, we can go down that rabbit hole, but you get our point. So here's one other interesting tidbit. Well, because I do believe the West is the largest group of terrorists in the world, and the amount of civilians killed as a result of what they've done in these proxy wars for the last 30, 40 years is evidence of that. You take my word for it, just look it up. So they show us in these places which failed to stabilize prices and cost of living over the last 2 years. In 2021, it was Eastern countries that seemed to have low stability, mainly Russia, they said in this report. So look at the dark red of Russia, right? The failure to stabilize price trajectories in 2021. Yet in 2022, the countries that went along with Western sanctions suffered watch this chart flip, guys. Okay, here's 2021, there's 2022. Okay, can you go back to 2021? Look, 2021, Russia's in red. 2022, the countries that go along with the sanctions suffered the worst, and Russia did not. The chart literally flips. Look how deep red Australia, United States, Canada, all of Europe. This is based on a survey of perception, not economic data, so keep that in mind. Note that the China destabilized too in this chart, which likely has little to do with war and more to do with COVID, of course, and lockdowns. So the report is full of the World Economic Forum, all the hits. They're playing all the hits here. It's like the greatest hits. Climate, migration, overcrowding, all of these things. Again, it is an invitation to worry. So if you want to worry, thanks to the World Economic Forum, or you can use this as an opportunity, to take care of your own family, and to, make sure you have cash on hand, not have digital currencies that they're trying to force on you, taking care of your own family, providing your own food sources if you can, have chickens, right? Raise your own food sources, have your own gardens, be able to do those things outside of their control. Have your own fuel sources if you can. This is a playbook for them. Straight up, this is what this is. This is a playbook for them. How world leaders can use this data to create policy change that may or may not be good for everyone. If past is prologue, it's a playbook for how to line the pockets of those people in power, quite simply, through the guise of social change based on panic. But it could also be well-intentioned. But likely that's not possible. So I'll say it could be well-intentioned. How many of you think the World Economic Forum is being well-intentioned here? Let me know in the chat. Do you guys think they're being well-intentioned?
I mean,
when are they not?
Does your cup say Grateful Dad or Grateful Dead?
Grateful Dead. Grateful Dad.
Look at this. Great. Oh,
yeah.
I was gonna say because I have a Grateful Dead shirt on, so I was like, hey, we're buddies today.
I'm a grateful father, a father of 3. father of 3 little ones who, and you think about this world, what these globalists are trying to control and take away your liberties, take away your freedoms, force you. I saw what Whole Foods rolled out yesterday with this like QR code check in and check out. Like they're tracking you when you go in, tracking you when you go out. These biometric scanners now that you can just pay with your face, your palm, getting rid of cash. I was saying to my wife, I said, it is so important for anytime you go near an ATM machine, just to take out some cash, have cash on hand because they want to take it away from you. And they'll only let you try it. By the way, if you had, let's just say you had $10,000 in your bank account and you went to an ATM and you wanted to take out the $10,000, there's no way. You'll get like $150. That's it.
Oh, and get pulled over by the cops with that much money.
Yeah. Look, what are you doing with this cash? It's my money. What do you mean? What am I doing?
Civil forfeiture.
Mm-hmm. Give it over to us.
They can literally, if they find that much money, the civil forfeiture, they can just literally take it, and there's nothing you can do about it. They can just say, well, it looks like it's probably illegal. You probably got it illegally. We can take it, and there's nothing you can do about it.
So anytime you get a chance, you're buying ATM, because they give you a daily limit, right? Take out some cash, have cash on hand, put some in your safe, have it in a safe place that other people don't know about, but have it because I'm telling you, as Catherine Austin Fitts talks about, they want to take it all away from you. And by taking away cash, by going cashless, they gain total control. And we're very, very close to the World Economic Forum and these guys having total control. She described it, in fact, trying to get Catherine on the show. I've been going back and forth. I'd love to have her on. But she said something the other night that I thought was so poignant. She said, really scary. She said, it's like a corral, like you're corralling cattle. And she said, we are corralled at this moment. And by adding in these layers of vaccine passport and layering in digital currency, that closes the gate on us. Think about that. We are already corralled by these people. And by then layering in vaccine passports so you can or cannot travel, and we're monitoring everything you do, and then your money and the money supply is now controlled by us. So we feel like you've been eating too much lately. We feel like you've been traveling too much lately. You're not allowed to spend any more money because we control it. And they put it under put it under the guise of being useful and
convenient.
Easy. Convenient, that's the word I'm looking for.
Well, and think about that. Like, they can't track what you buy with cash. You can take out cash, you can go buy things, but more and more it's getting harder to do that. I mean, I remember a guy came in, he came out of the military, he had a bonus or whatever, and he wanted to buy a car. So he came in, dropped $9,000 cash on a desk, and he had to report that to the government because you can only spend so much before they need to know what you're buying. And the thing is, if you make it digital, that just makes it so that they can track every single thing you spend. So you think that's going to affect your taxes. That's going to affect if you do anything nefarious, they can just shut you down and hey, you're not going to be able to get any groceries or money until you go turn yourself in for that parking ticket you have in Seattle. It's like all of these little things that they'll be able to do to you if we digitize and allow them to digitize our currency.
Now, we're talking about central bank digital currency. We're not talking about Bitcoin and that. Go down a rabbit hole.
Exactly.
But CBDCs, right? Central banks digital currencies, right? So the government's control of this, and they're going to force you to do it. We've already seen it happening in China and other places, right? So can't use Bitcoin. It's outlawed. But you can use our Chinese version of that here. And the Fed is working on it actively, their Fed Now program. So we already know that it's coming. So, and I saw someone in the chat say, well, cash will be worthless. Well, it's maybe not. But I mean, you just think about like you have access to those coins and actual paper currency is still transactional. So being able to, have access to that where you can still be able to, I'm reading a book right now on early Revolutionary War time, and I think it was called The First Conspiracy by Brad Meltzer. Brad Meltzer? I think so. And, like George Washington, really interesting spy book. And one of the things they're talking about is the counterfeiting operation that was unfolding by the loyalists for the king, who were trying to undermine the colonies and trying to print money. This is, of course, goes back. I mean, Nazis tried to do this. Right, they had printing presses set up. that they were about to dump cash all over the United States that they printed. Right, so this has been used for hundreds of years. The idea of economic warfare through inflation and dumping cash, and so again, it was so important to have this money, to have the paper currency, and I don't think that's ever going to go away. We will have some sort of transactional paper currency, but again, that's why it's so important to have precious metals as well. To have things that are tangible, that are outside of this system. Catherine Austin Fitts says, when the Soviet Union fell, the most important transactional piece of currency was vodka. Like to get across the border to, whatever, if you had vodka, like small little bottles of vodka, like that was worth more than money. And she says, go and buy some.
Here it would probably be Mountain Dew, I would assume, in America. Mountain Dew, like soda,
cigarettes,
bags of sugar.
Pacific Northwest, it'd be IPAs. Like the more hops you have in your IPA, the more money you got in your pocket.
Or eggs. Like you see these things when scarcity, right? Scarcity, and so people crossing the border right now with eggs, like smuggling eggs across the border. Copper. We're seeing such a run on copper that you're seeing, there's such a lack of copper right now in the world that, people are literally stealing copper plates off of streets in order to smuggle them and sell them to China, like to make money off of copper. Like that's, these precious metals, man, I'm telling you, it's crazy. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.